Hey guys, and welcome to this review of Napoleon Total War. It was released in 2010 after the release of Empire. Unlike Empire, it's very campaign based. You can choose to have Napoleon conquer Europe or act as one of the countries who is against him. There are different campaigns, so it's much more in that manner than Empire was. Like before with Empire, you can hear a unique narration for each time the campaign starts. So now we're going to be listening to one of the examples of the narration from Napoleon's perspective.
Fire that threatens to engulf the world. I do not know when the fire in Napoleon first burned. Perhaps
it is a crucial time in the war between France and the coalition. With the majority of French forces engaging Austria in the Rhineland, you've been placed in command of the destitute Armée d'Italie near the French-Italian border. Faced with impending invasion from Austrian forces stationed in Italy, it is vital that you address your army's dire situation and secure a foothold in the region before setting your sights on Austria itself. Capture Klagenfurt, and your forces will have a clear path to Vienna. The stronghold of Mantua may prove to be a challenging obstacle, although its seizure is vital if you hope to weaken the Austrian position in Italy. You will also face resistance from Austria's coalition ally, the Kingdom of Piedmont, Sardinia. Subjugating this nation, along with any other Italian states that stand in your way, will ensure you sufficient resources to crush the Austrians and overthrow the coalition.
If you watch my previous review of Empire, you'll notice that this overworld map is a lot smaller. You don't have the choice of going to the Americas like you used to, so it's very confined to Europe. That is sort of accurate. I mean, you are trying to gain control of Europe and not India or America. It could be a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. Another unique thing about Empire is how they implement a morale system that is more sweeping on the overworld map. As you move through enemy territories, your armies will begin to deplete from attrition, so men will just get tired and they'll actually leave your army. But if you're in friendly territory, they'll automatically begin to replenish. Also, if you lose your general or Napoleon or one of the major commanders in the battle, they'll actually be sent to your capital, so it maintains that historical accuracy. Now this is the campaign of the coalition. You can choose for this one to be historically accurate or just go for rule domination, which means just take as many territories as you can. It's kind of fun because you can just act against Napoleon. You don't have to be constrained by that.
Napoleon and his godless revolutionaries have no respect for the status quo. They insist on meddling with the balance of power on mainland Europe. Defenseless Liguria has been annexed by France, and such behavior cannot be tolerated. As a result, Great Britain has joined forces with Austria and Russia to oppose French continental ambitions. Sweden, Portugal, and the smaller Italian states have vowed to aid the struggle, but the three great powers must take most of the strain in opposing this monstrous revolutionary threat. Whilst Austria and Russia attempt to deal with Napoleon on the fields of Bavaria, you must ensure that his navy is kept in check. Admiral Villeneuve's fleet must be intercepted by the Royal Navy, lest the armies of France march on British shores. Then, inshore blockades are maintained across all French ports. Finally, your long-standing ally Portugal must be aided in pushing through into occupied Spain, opening a second front and splitting the might of Napoleon's armies.
So this overworld map looks a lot like Empire. There are some differences. I mean, you have trade routes, but you don't have the theaters like you do in Empire. So as I said before, it sort of gives it that historical feel. I mean, you can open negotiations with different nations, whether they're major nations or minor nations. This right now is playing as Great Britain. So you also have the list tab and the research tab. So you can, as before, you research different technologies, and depending on the technologies that you have, you can get different benefits, whether it's new weapons or just perks to research rate or income or things like that. You can click anywhere on the overworld map and it'll automatically snap there. So as you can see, it's just pretty big. Not as big as Empire, but that's okay. This game also shows the geography a little bit better than Empire did. I mean, you saw mountains in Scotland earlier, so that adds the more accurate feel to it. Now you can also play in different historical battles. This is I think the Battle of Waterloo, the final battle that Napoleon fought. I mean, there are several others that you can choose from to fight in. Okay, so now we're moving into the land battle. Land battles are pretty much identical to Empire. There are some differences. For example, you have effects such as cannonballs hitting the ground that will actually split into parts. When men fire, they send up clouds of gunpowder smoke. So that's more accurate. You also have elevation and different things like that. You also there's just some minor tweaks. For example, if your general's in danger, it'll actually show it better than before. And because it's so similar to Empire, I mean, that can be sort of a disadvantage or a strike in its favor. I mean, a lot of people have claimed that this really isn't a new game so much more as an expansion pack or a DLC or something like that. That's dependent on how you look at it. I still think it's pretty fun, and I played it a lot. But if you're somebody who wants an entirely new game, you might want to go for something else. Now, sea battles are pretty much identical to Empire. And notice I've been mentioning Empire a lot because, well, this game is a game after Empire, so it follows a lot of what Empire did. But you do have some options that you didn't have with Empire. You can group ships, you know, you have the same commands. For the most part, it plays just as the same as Empire. But you also have the choice of repairing your ships if you can manage it. You still can capture ships, you can still fire the same projectiles, but some of the ships are different simply because it takes place at a later time period. So that's more accurate. Now, siege battles are again similar to Empire. You know, it's that theme going on. You still have to break through the walls. It's still a little bit of a pain because they still follow much of what Empire did. Depending on what you do, you can find ways to work around it. You know, you can wait until the enemy attacks you, so they'll actually come out of the fort rather than force you to fight them in the fort, which is a lot easier to do, but it's still sort of a pain. Now, in terms of the quality of the game, it's actually very fun. If you like Empire, you'll definitely like this game. It does have some of its quirks. It's not as changing as some other games are. You know, for example, even games that follow each other like Shogun and Medieval, they still were pretty different, but this game really isn't all that different when you really stop to think about it. That can be a strike, but other than that, it's still pretty fun to play, and I find myself going back and just playing it over and over again. So that pretty much does it for this review. I am going to be reviewing more of the Total War series, and hopefully I'll get my hands on Rome 2 and let you know my thoughts on that. But until then, stay tuned for another review.